This is my follow-up video on my experiment of using sorbic acid in my diet to help reduce the degree to which my food mass inside my gut decomposes before I can even get nutritional value out of it. It's all due to antifreeze poisoning 13 years ago, and I still live with the legacy of that. I've managed to put off cancer and kidney failure and diabetes, late onset adult type 2 diabetes, which are all conditions that can result from antifreeze poisoning, and various cancers like leukemia, pancreatic cancer, liver cancer. I mean, you can get all kinds of cancers from antifreeze poisoning, but you can also get diabetes type 2, late onset adult diabetes, or you can get kidney failure, which can kill you, all based on how your body responds to how much antifreeze was taken into your body. Antifreeze being ethylene glycol, okay? Propylene glycol, that's okay. That's the safe version of antifreeze that we are not allowed to put into our American-made cars, or else our warranty gets voided, okay? So we're not allowed to use safe antifreeze. Try to figure that one out. All they have to do is avoid aluminum parts, and I believe that's the only stipulation for using propylene glycol, the safe antifreeze. But they use the highly toxic mutagenic ethylene glycol version of antifreeze in our United States-made cars. Has nothing to do with America, because we do have Americans living north and south of us, Canadians, Mexicans. They are Americans too, so it's good to call us United Statesians, because that's pretty much what we should be saying to distinguish ourselves from the rest of America. The Americas, the America. Anyway, and we're not Norte Americanos because we live in the United States. Canada is North America, so anyway. That ethnic difficulty aside, in our language, making us very strongly imperialists. So this video, not to digress too much, is a follow-up to my initial video on my experimental use of sorbic acid to kill the incessant little craving that we get, outside of meals, that tells us, oh, I got to eat again, I got to eat more, I got to snack. Why? You're just feeding the fungus inside your system, the candida, and all the other pathogenic microbes who are hankering to control you, merely for the purpose of feeding themselves. And, parasites, pathogens have figured out over eons how to submit us to their authority by secreting various chemicals that mimic the chemicals in our physiology, namely the hormones, which act as communication between our various organs, and even they can create what are they called? Neural compounds, that are parallel the types of compounds that stimulate various neurons in the nervous system, in our brain, in our spinal column, in our white matter, in our gray matter, to mimic the various compounds that produce various synaptic responses, such that we have certain neural experiences that we think are our own, but they're managed and created by pathogenic microbes that have figured out how to fake a legitimate response inside our physiology by creating one themselves in order to steer us in the direction they want us to go, namely a direction maybe that would help them replicate or spread themselves within our population by passing us from person to person, or to help them feed and get food. Whatever it is, whatever it takes to help them survive and fulfill themselves, they figured out how to symbiotically control us, or highly influence us, let's put it that way, such that we can't tell the difference between a legitimate response upon our body and their various responses. And one of the confusions that is worthy of pointing out is that the medical establishment frequently will say, oh, ammonia is produced by the body. No, it's not. It's only produced by pathogens, parasitic pathogens. And fungus feeds on ammonia, so it helps fungus grow. These are animal-based parasites that create ammonia. We produce urea, yet our liver, over eons, have gotten used to this presence of parasites in our physiology, and so the liver, a healthy liver, not mine, but a healthy one not subject to hypoammonemia, a condition in which it's lacking an enzyme that can convert ammonia into urea, and hence the kidneys can then get rid of the urea, because kidneys cannot get rid of ammonia. So ammonia is produced by animal-based parasites, and fungus and yeast feeds on ammonia as its nitrogen source. So I want to kill all that, and it turns out that sorbic acid, originally coming from the fruit of the Rowan tree that grows in both England and Europe, it's a edible fruit provided you cook it first. Otherwise, it's poisonous in the raw state. It'll destroy your kidneys if you eat it raw. But we don't get our sorbic acid from the Rowan tree berry, tree fruit. We get it from an artificial substitute. And apparently it proves worthy because it itself, the active form, namely sorbic acid, is not carcinogenic, it's not poisonous, and it's considered generally safe for use, so it's added to our foods in the appropriate amount, which is very small, it turns out. It's quite potent stuff. It's a fatty acid, it's not that soluble in water, but it's okay because you don't need much anyway. So I have this kitchen scale that I bought through Amazon, but you can get it directly probably from the company. It's from E-Tech City. It's a 500-gram kitchen scale, and it has an accuracy, I think, to a tenth of a gram. But it measures down to 1% of a gram, 1 part per 100 of a gram, I think. So it might be sensitive to 1 part per 100, so I don't know. It has a great deal of sensitivity. It works really cool. So I bought the sorbic acid, and it was very cheap. It was $5.17. This is 2016 that I bought it. And the shipping was $6, so it cost me a little over $11. Very economical. 4 ounces, 125 grams of sorbic acid. A cosmetic grade. Not intended for food use, so I'm using it in a way that was not intended by the manufacturer. I might as well state up front. But I believe it's okay. So I went ahead and did it. So I put it in a used ricotta cheese, empty, clean container. I put the label on the front, which tells me how to store it. Store it in the dark. Do not allow light to hit it. And store it at room temperature. And it tells me how much to use. And it tells me that it might be a good idea to add citric acid in a very small amount. And it told me how much to add in order to prevent oxidation of the sorbic acid. So I thought, oh, cool. So instead of using pure citric acid, I have a blend, an acid blend that I got from, Ohio Brewers, I think. And it's a mixture of citric acid, malic acid, and tartaric acid, but I also added potassium tartrate to it. So and this is my mixture of the two, of the acid blend and the potassium bitartrate. And so I took a half a gram of this, measured out, and added it to the 125 grams of the sorbic acid and shook it up. And that gave me the quantity of citric acid, fruit acid. I kind of, I'm fudging a little. It's not citric acid, it's other acids, a mixture of acids that I added to the 125 grams of sorbic acid to help prevent oxidation. I don't know. It's not important. I just thought I'd add it. And I shook it up, and I keep this stored in the dark. And then I took 2-liter bottles, water bottles, as my mixing containers, and I labeled them. So in one, I added sorbic acid in the quantity of 100 milligrams, 1/10 of a gram. And it's a liter, so it's 1 kilograms of water. Okay? And I've been shaking it up periodically, because sorbic acid dissolves very poorly, and so that means it dissolves very slowly. So you have to keep shaking it up every few hours the first day or two. And in this bottle, I put a whole gram. Now, I haven't tried this one yet. And sorbic acid has the acidity equivalent roughly equivalent to that of vinegar. So I thought I was going to add sugar, but I thought, well, I'll wait and see, to make like a lemonade. Maybe this one might require sugar to make it palatable. But this one doesn't. I got out a little Dixie cup, and I've been shaking it, and I think it's mostly dissolved. It was very little. Sorbic acid is a fatty acid. That might explain why it dissolves very poorly in water. Anyway, so I poured out a little bit in the Dixie cup, probably a teaspoon or two, and I tasted it because I was having cravings this morning to have a little snack. And I thought, well, gee, instead of having a snack, why don't I try my new sorbic acid that I just bought, that I've been shaking up, and see if it does the job. And it did. Not only did it kill my cravings to have a snack, but it also helped me have a bowel movement. And one of the problems of candida overgrowth in the physiology is the paralysis, or the partial paralysis, of motility in the colon. And if worse, in the rest of the intestinal tract as well. But especially it's noticeable in the colon, and it produces a condition such as constipation, because, yeast produces alcohol, and alcohol suppresses the physiology. We know this, muscle response, your ability to act. And it's no different with peristalsis. It suppresses that as well. It suppresses the immune system. The alcohol does a whole kind of bunch of stuff that's not really nice. And of course, yeast produces more than just alcohol. It produces all kinds of toxins. That's just, one out of the many that it creates. So I thought, since sorbic acid is so good at killing fungus and yeast, mold, and botulism, to name just a few organisms that sorbic acid kills, I thought, gee, it's in cheese slices that are individually wrapped that we get in the market, for your lunch bag. Why not buy the stuff, mix it in water, and take little sips to see if I can act independent of cheese and regulate the dosage? Because I noticed that it depends on the brand of individually wrapped cheese slices that you buy as to how much sorbic acid they add. It varies, and then you got to chew the cheese thoroughly to liberate all the sorbic acids. This way, I just get it because it's dissolved in the water. All I have to do is drink it, a little sip of it, and I get to regulate consistently the dosage to get just the right amount. Because I notice if I get too much, I get severely constipated. Okay, so it makes my condition worse. Yet I get absolutely no gas, so I know it's doing the right thing. I was just getting too massive a dosage. So I thought that a gram per liter might be too much, and that a tenth of a gram might be better. And I might even have to dilute this, but I didn't know. But this seems to be the right dilution, a tenth of a gram in a liter of water, and you just take a tiny little sip. So I use paper Dixie cups, little, 1 ounce Dixie cups, and I can throw it away, and because I'm just drinking a small amount. Now I don't have to wash out a glass like when I make tea. It's different. I make a whole glass, and I got to clean it out to reuse it. But this I don't want to have to deal with that because I'm just drinking a tiny amount. So a little Dixie cup is perfect for that purpose. I might as well bring that out to show you all the things that I use. Oh, excuse me, it's a 3 ounce paper Dixie cup. All my little tools here. Let's see. So it's really cool. I'm really getting good results, and it's simple, straightforward, not too difficult, not too expensive to implement, and it's taking charge of a problem. Candida overgrowth is a problem for some of us. So, it's all very well and good that I deal with silver to the extent that I do, but silver doesn't solve all of my problems. And Hulda Clark said the biggest problem of parasites is the inside of the eyeball and the inside of the gastrointestinal system. To reach those areas is very difficult. So now I think I've solved the problem of how to reach the gastrointestinal system by taking sorbic acid in small doses periodically throughout the day, whenever I feel the need, with meal or without meal. It really doesn't matter. However I choose to take it, and continue to bathe in silver hydroperoxide and make silver embedded beeswax, and work with silver powder, and work with lotion for the body, such as my foreskin replacement experiments or regeneration experiments, whatever. So silver has a lot of different uses, but it doesn't take care of everything. And I believe the sorbic acid is helping to mop up in a little area that I was not successful in dealing with the use of silver alone, and that's in the area of digestion and making sure that my food does not degrade before I digest it. Because if that happens, instead of digesting the food and getting the nutrients of the food, instead I'm getting nutrients, but mixed with the nutrients I'm also getting poison. I'm poisoning myself because the candida gets such a virulent, active, dynamic domination of my upper intestines, not just my colon. And I know this. The antifreeze poisoning has done this to me. The candida literally flourishes in my small intestine. And it's been so bad at times that it actually flourishes right out of the stomach. The very top end of the whole stretch of the small intestine, all the way up to the top end, I can get bloat all the way because I literally have so little gastric secretion to kill bacteria on raw food, and I have so little weakness in the general physiology to kill off candida in the small intestine, let alone the colon. So I really need a technique as a crutch to help me, slow down the aging process, because toxins seeping into the bloodstream along with nutrients from the small intestine, that accelerates the aging process. I don't want that. So silver's cool. It helps the body regenerate, but I should stop degenerating. And a lot of my degeneration comes from toxins coming out of my gut and going into the bloodstream along with nutrients, creating a burden for my physiology to handle it and stay young at the same time. So this is cool because it comes originally from a fruit. Unfortunately, this is artificially made. I think they use microbial fermentation to make this. But originally it comes from a fruit that when cooked and you add sugar to it to make a marmalade, the berry from that tree is healthy. And they've known about the sorbic acid, or they've known about the properties of the Rowan fruit for the last 200 years. So it's been used to preserve meat and other foodstuffs that require preservation. So this is like another tool in our toolbox to use that we can avail ourselves, and it's so potent. You need so little. I mean, it's very economical. So what more do I need to say, really? It's like all these superlatives. And I thought, because of the massive headaches I would get, eating something with either potassium sorbate or sorbic acid in it, that there was something wrong. There's nothing wrong. It was a Herxheimer reaction. I was just getting a rapid die-off of yeast in my system such that I was getting a headache. But if you get past that, then you realize, oh, I'm not getting headaches anymore, and yet I'm still taking the sorbic acid. Interesting. So, I was just false reasoning on my part. Ever since the age of 17, when I first, learned about sorbic acid and getting headaches from it, that I thought, oh, it must be something wrong. No, there's nothing wrong. There's something wrong with me. Nothing wrong with the sorbic acid. Now, potassium sorbate is much more soluble than sorbic acid is, but it's not the active form. And since I don't have much hydrochloric acid secretion to neutralize the alkalinity of potassium sorbate, I don't want to go there. So I bought the sorbic acid because that is the only form that's active, that has the properties of a preservative. Not potassium sorbate, not sodium sorbate, simply sorbic acid. And so I can't afford to eat alkalis. I don't mind eating a cookie, something that's leavened with a quick bread version of leavening, not yeast, but that produces various things, but sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate, which is an alkali. I try to stay away from those things as a general rule of thumb, because it soaks up the acidity of my stomach and neutralizes that, and then I can't digest my food properly. So I didn't want to go the route of potassium sorbate for that reason, because I have a weak digestion as it is, weak enough as it is, so I don't want to make it weaker, So I stuck with the sorbic acid, and it was cheap, and it was readily available, I think it's called Etsy. E is in Edward, T is in Tom, S is in Samuel, Y is in yesterday.com. Etsy.com, they were selling sorbic acid. And they were also selling it in larger quantity, but I thought 4 ounces, 125 grams would be sufficient, and it is, more than enough. Yeah, I could probably share it with my whole neighborhood if I needed to, you know, and then some, and still have plenty left over to spare. Because you really need so little. You got to dilute it down and yada yada, you know, so it's not a problem. It's very doable.